The protesters over student debt is new here in the U.S., but over the last year and a half, we've seen thousands of students coming out to protest tuition hikes and university privatization in London, Chile, and just last week in Montreal. They have all turned violent. Earlier, I spoke with Robert Applebaum, founder of ForgiveStudentLoanDebt.com. I asked him why we don't see students coming out in droves to protest the outrageous student debt crisis in this country. Why did it take the debt to hit $1 trillion before seeing actions like this organized on the ground? Here's his take.
Unfortunately, here in America, I think there is a significant stigma of shame and embarrassment when it comes to debt and student loan debt. Also, there are very few recourses for people with student loan debt. So, taking to the streets and protesting about it won't, it's a demonstration that people are upset about it. But why aren't they coming out in droves? Is because they know that there are no consumer protections on these loans. There's no statute of limitations on the collections of these loans. And they're basically stuck with them for life. So I think people in this country feel defeated, and given the nature of our politics, I don't think that they see an opportunity for anything to really change.
Yeah, but why do these people see the opportunity for change in other countries? I mean, it's the same issue, the privatization, the outrageous debt, the raising costs of tuition. I just don't see why this country is so different.
I wish I had an answer for you. There's just something in the American psyche about, wanting to pay back what you borrowed and not really wanting to admit that you're in such dire straits in terms of debt. I just think there's something different about the American psyche.
I think it's the American dream is still thinking it's achievable. We go to college, get our dream job, and I think that a lot of people still think that this is the road to take, and when it doesn't happen, you're right. I think there is an element of shame maybe to that and in denial.
Absolutely. They blame themselves.
And
they blame themselves for not achieving the unachievable American dream.
We just saw on the campaign trail, this is a hot topic. Romney and Obama are both agreeing on keeping the interest rates lower and not having them double. What do you think wouldn't that just put the $6 billion burden on the taxpayers, though? I mean, if we absorb the cost of the interest rates not raising or doubling like they're scheduled to do, what would that do? Isn't that just a vicious cycle?
Well, at a time when the biggest financial institutions in this country, who nearly destroyed the economy 4 years ago, can borrow from the federal government at 0% interest, I see no reason on earth why students who are merely trying to obtain an education should have to borrow at 6.8%. Even the 3.4% interest rate is higher than what the biggest financial institutions in this country have to borrow.
There's a vote this week about this. What do you think is going to happen with it?
Well, from what I understand, Speaker Boehner recently came out and said that there's going to be a vote. However, they're going to extract the money from payments on Obamacare. So, it's just more political posturing and more political games. Ultimately, if that's the stance that the Republicans are going to take, then nothing's going to happen, because obviously the Democrats aren't going to defund Obamacare. And the Republicans, obviously, in the last 2 years, have demonstrated a willingness to really dig their heels in to the detriment of the middle class.
And talking about political posturing, do you think that what Obama recently said about how he and Michelle just got rid of their student loans 6 or 8 years ago and just finally got their debt forgiven or expunged? Do you think that there's truth to that? I mean, or do you think that he's just politically pandering to the student vote?
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can politically pander and be truthful at the same time. And I think it's a matter of record that he and Michelle did take out student loans to attend both college and law school. And, until 8 years ago, he wasn't even on the national scene. So I don't really have any reason to doubt that he just finished paying off his student loans 8 years ago, because that's just about when he made his famous speech at the 2004 convention. Nominating John Kerry when he came onto the national scene.
Well, I would argue that he was on the national scene a little bit prior to that. But I mean, is there anything that he can legitimately do to curtail these predatory industries? Or, I mean, is it just kind of out of his
Well,
hands?
Well, it's out of his hands solely. We need Congress and the president to work together to actually accomplish something. The president can only do so much on his own without a Congress willing to do the job that it was elected to do. But what they can do is get behind a terrific piece of legislation that was authored by Representative Hanson Clark of Michigan, H.R. 4170, the Student Loan Forgiveness Act of 2012. That sets up a new repayment standard of 10 years of repayments at 10% of your discretionary income, and the remaining amount is forgiven. That is a piece of legislation that can really curtail the abuses of the student lending industry and really get us a long way towards economic growth. Because right now, as it stands, with $1 trillion of outstanding student loan debt, we have a significant suppressive effect on the economy. As a result of these debts, those people who we rely upon to buy houses and to buy cars and to start businesses and start families aren't doing any of those things because of their student loan debts.
Yeah, it definitely is going to require working together with the whole establishment to really, take this to the next level and give students a chance to really pursue their dreams and take back the American dream. Shifting the conversation really quickly, looking at a university like Harvard, where tuition is, I don't know the exact number, but about $50,000 annually. Why are these universities? Why are these universities, private and public, given these tax-exempt statuses, and they're just continually gouging students, and tuition costs just continue to raise year after year? It just seems counterintuitive when we could be having them pay kind of a portion to get us out of this mess.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. So I completely agree with you. And I think ultimately the root cause of the problem with skyrocketing tuition, counterintuitively, is actually the existence of student loans themselves. Because of all of this seemingly free money where anyone with a pulse who wants a student loan can get one, the lenders don't have to engage in any sort of risk-benefit analysis. And the colleges and universities have no incentive to keep their tuition down because they know ultimately they're getting paid up front and the students are going to be left holding the bag.
And to wrap up this segment, Robert, half of college graduates in 2012 are unemployed. I mean, is it time to start reconsidering higher education? Where do you see this going?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am personally a proponent of public funding of higher education. The 21st century equivalent of the high school diploma is the bachelor's degree. And if we accept that premise as true, then cutting off public funding of education after the 12th grade is completely arbitrary and does not reflect the realities of today.
That was Robert Applebaum, founder of ForgiveStudentLoanDebt.com.